Hello, everyone. In today's session, we're going to talk about the suspense account. This is one of the tricky areas. Sometimes some student found it really tricky. Let's try to understand the whole picture, how the suspense account created, from where the suspense account come in, and how can we remove the suspense account. Let's try to understand the whole accounting process first. So when we prepare the accounts, the first thing we do, we look for the transaction. So let's say one business have two transactions. So let's just take example that a business have a two transaction. The first one is, for example, cash sell. And the next one, let's say we have a cash purchase. Cash purchase. So we have a two transaction. One is cash sale and one is cash purchase. Let's say cash sales is £1,000 and cash purchase is 500. So there's only two transactions for this business. Now, what will be the journal for the cash sale? So cash will be debit 1,000 and the sale will be credit 1,000. The next one will be purchase is expense. So purchase will be debit 500 and the cash is going. So cash will be credit 500. So this is our journal from the transaction. So once we made the journal, our next step will be to prepare the trial balance. So the ledger account. So our next step is to prepare the ledger account. Ledger account. So we have how many entity here? We have a cash, we have a sale, and we have a purchase. We have a three entity that we have to make the ledger account. So let's make this one. So first we make for the cash. And then we make for the sell. And the next one we make for the purchase. So let's move the first one. So the cash. So transaction number one, cash is a debit. So on the debit side, I'm going to write opposite. So I'm going to write sell 1,000. And sales is a credit. So on the credit side, I'm going to write cash 1,000. So our first transaction is recorded on the ledger account. The next one, number two, purchase is a debit. So on the debit side, I'm going to write cash 500. And cash is a credit. On the credit side, I'm going to write purchase 500. That's it. I hope you already learned your ledger account, how to make it. So this is the story of the ledger account. Now we need to find the balance CDBD. So we'll make the total 1,000. We'll make the total 1,000 and find the difference. The difference is called balance CD. And this balance CD will come opposite side as a balance BD 500. Do the same thing for the sell. We have a sell 1,000. And write the 1,000 here as well. So you don't have anything on the debit side. So the balance CD is 1,000 and the balance BD is 1,000. Finally, the purchase, we don't have anything on the credit side. So purchase is a debit 500. Writing on 500 other side, balance CD is 500 and the balance BD is also 500. Whatever is closing is opening for the next period. So now we've done our ledger balance. The next step is to prepare the TB trial balance. So we'll make a T account. After that, we'll take all the balances from the ledger account to check all the transactions are recorded correctly. That means the double entry has been take place correctly. So if it is correctly recorded, then my trial balance will be balanced. That means the debit side and the credit side will be equal. So let's start with the first one, the cash. The cash is opening balance. We have a balance BD on the debit side. So we'll say it will come on the debit side, cash 500. Then sell have a opening balance, the balance BD on the credit side. So sell will come to the credit side. That is 1000. And the purchase, you can see the balance BD on the debit side. So it will come to the debit side, purchase 500. And after that, we can see if we added the debit side and the credit side is matching. That means this transaction is recorded perfectly. So if the trial balance debit side and the credit side match, that means there will be no suspense account. The problem will happen when the debit side and the credit side doesn't match, and the difference has to be covered by the suspense account. For example, the debit side is 2000 and the credit side is 1000. So the difference 1000 will cover by the suspense account. Suspense account means I'm not sure why it is not matching. So for the time being, I just try to match the trial balance by putting the suspense account. But for the long run, I don't want it. For the long run, I'm going to remove it. So how the suspense account created? For example, let's say we make cash debit, but the sale we didn't make credit. Or maybe we make the purchase debit and the cash we didn't write anything. So let's say on journal number 2, we say purchase debit, but we have no idea what will be the credit. So we made a mistake, so we don't know what it is. And the difference coming is a suspense. And this is the 500. And this 500 will move ultimately here as a suspense account. So what we'll do for that, we'll look for the reason how to correct it. And once we found it, we'll correct it. For example, let's say for this one, if I said purchase debit 500 and suspense credit 500, because I don't know what will be the credit, so I make suspense. So later on, when I'm going to correct it, I'm going to put the right one. Which one will be credit? The cash. So cash supposed to be credit. So I said cash supposed to be credit, not the suspense. So I need to remove the suspense. So before I make suspense debit, credit, now I have to make the suspense debit. So this debit and credit will be gone. So that's how we correct the suspense account. So first we'll look for where is the problem. Then after that, once we found it and we correct it. Let's look at one of the question. Hopefully we'll understand more from there. So let's try to open a question from the bookkeeping control and we'll see if we can solve it together. All right, so look at this question from the bookkeeping control. Practice assessment 1 is question number 9 for the suspense account. So we can look here. There is 2 journal they put here. So you have a journal number 1 and journal number 2. So suspense debit, light and heating credit, light and heating debit, and suspense credit. So remember, the suspense account has to be gone. So that means there cannot be any balance CD or BD for the suspense account. It has to go. So let's try to understand. The first journal we have to record. The first journal we have a suspense debit. So on the debit side, I'm going to write light and heating. And the next journal we have heat and lighting debit and suspense credits. On the debit side, I'm going to write that one so you know how to do it. So let's try to do this question. The first one, let's do the first journal. Suspense account debit 982. So I'm in the suspense account. On the debit side, I'm going to write the opposite. All the ledger account, we always write the opposite. So I'm going to write heat and lighting 982. So heat and light 982. And after that, we have a heat and light credit. So on the credit side, on the heat and lighting account, I'm going to write opposite, that is suspense. So heat and light is a credit. So on the credit side, I'm going to write suspense 982. So our journal number 1 is done. The next journal we have heat and lighting debit 353 and suspense account credit 353. So what I'll do, I'll go back to the heat and light account. So heat and light is a debit. So on the debit side, I'm going to write suspense 353. So on the debit side, I'm going to write suspense 353. And we have a suspense credit. So on the credit side, I'm going to write heat and lighting on the suspense account. So suspense is credit. I'm coming to the suspense account. And on the credit side, I'm going to write heat and light. After that, if we add it, it has to be equal. So for example, if I added this two, this exactly has to be 982. Because the suspense account has to be gone, it has to be vanished. Cannot keep the suspense account. And the heat and lighting will have a balance CD. So you're going to add it these two, find the total, and write the total, and the difference would be the balance CD. And that's how we do this question. So very simple. But remember, the suspense account has to go. Let's move to the next one. The next question we have here, the same way we'll do. So let's do the first one, the drawings. So we have a drawings debit and bank deposit credit. So the first one is drawings. Let's go to the drawings. Drawings is a debit. So on the debit side, I'm going to write opposite. The opposite one is bank deposit. So look for the bank deposit 1500. So bank deposit 1500. Then the next one is a bank deposit. Bank deposit is a credit. So on the credit side, I'm going to write drawings. So let's look at what is the bank deposit is a credit. So on the credit side, I'm going to write drawings 1500. Drawings 1500. The first one is done. Move to the next journal. Loan from the bank is a debit. So on the debit side, on the loan from the bank account, I'm going to write opposite. I'm going to write bank deposit. So loan from the bank, let's go. Where is the loan from the bank? Here is the loan from the bank. And on the loan from the bank, it is a debit. So I'm going to write on the debit side, but I'll write the opposite, that is bank deposit. And finally, you have a bank deposit credit. So on the credit side, we're going to write opposite, that is loan from the bank. So let's go. Credit side, we're going to write loan from the bank. That's it. And after all you have to do, you have to find the balance CDBD. So make the total, find the balance CD, make the total, find the balance CD. There is no suspense account. And obviously, if there is a suspense account, it has to go. What will be the balance carried down in the bank deposit? It's very simple. All you have to do, you have to make a total of these two. Write it down, the total here, find the balance CD. Whatever amount will come here, it will come here. And the balance carried down for the bank deposit. So obviously it will be the closing balance. So if the balance BD, it is your debit side, it will be debit balance. If it is credit side, it will be the credit balance. So it's a very simple one. It's not very difficult one. Remember that the suspense account could be very tricky, but all you have to know how to remove it. So if you made a mistake, when you create an account, we have to do the reversal. For example, let's say if I said there is a electricity 50 pound paid by cash. And if I said by mistake, the electricity, I said rent. So I said rent debit 50 pound and the cash credit 50 pound. So it's supposed to be electricity, not rent. So that's my mistake. This is the mistake one, isn't it? That's the mistake one. So it has to be gone. So which one is the wrong here? The rent is the wrong here. The cash is okay because it's supposed to be electricity. So how I correct that? So I need to remove the rent. So rent, I make it debit. So I'll make rent credit. So it will be gone, debit and credit. Then I'll record the electricity. So that's how we can correct if there any mistake happen. And if there is an amount difference, then the suspense account will be created. For example, let's say there is a sale cash. So cash sale, for example, cash sale 100 plus VAT 20 pound. So total is 120. Cash sale 100 plus VAT 20. So it will be 120. Now what happened? The journal supposed to be cash 100 pound debit, VAT 20 pound credit, and sell £100. This is 120. So £100 credit. Because the 2 credit, 20 plus 100, it will give us 120. And this is 120 total. So I receive 120 from the customer. Out of 120, 20 for the VAT and 100 for the sale. But if I made a mistake, for example, if I said, rather than writing VAT 20, if I write VAT 10, so what will happen? The credit is not matching. So total 10 plus 100 is become 110. So 10 will be shortage on the credit side, and that time suspense account will be created 10 here to make it equal 120. Because the debit is 120, credit has to be 120. So any difference will come as a suspense. So suspense will be created 10 credit. And in future, when we found, oh, the VAT is supposed to be 20, so I have to correct the VAT, and after the suspense has to go. So now the suspense is credit. After I will make the suspense debit 10 and it will go. That's how we correct the suspense account. When you do your level 3 with the advanced bookkeeping, you will understand more about the suspense account, and you have to know how to record the suspense account in the extended trial balance, and you have to how to make the adjustment. But I hope this video will help you to understand a little bit about the suspense account, why it is created, how it is created, how to record it, and how to remove it. And hopefully, if you practice more, you will understand more. All right, so thank you everyone for watching my videos, and hopefully if you have any question, you can email me, and I'll try to help you if I can. Thank you very much, everyone.